Four Fists by F. Scott Fitzgerald from Flappers and Philosophers. At the present time, no one I know has the slightest desire to hit Samuel Meredith. Possibly this is because the man is over 50. A man over 50 is liable to be rather severely cracked at the impact of a hostile fist. But, for my part, I am inclined to think that all his hittable qualities have quite vanished. But it is certain that at various times in his life, hittable qualities were in his face, as sure as kissable qualities have ever lurked in the girl's lips. I am sure everyone has met a man like that, been casually introduced, even made a friend of him, yet felt he was the sort who aroused passionate dislike, expressed by some in the involuntary clinching of fists, and in others by muttering about taking a poke and landing a swift smash in the eye. In the juxtaposition of Samuel Meredith's features, this quality was so strong that it influenced his entire life. What was it? Not the shape, certainly, for he was a pleasant-looking man from earliest youth, broad-bowed, with grey eyes that were frank and friendly. Yet I've heard him tell a room full of reporters angling for a success story that he'd be ashamed to tell them the truth, that they wouldn't believe it, that it wasn't one story but four, that the public would not want to read about a man who had been walloped into prominence. It all started at Phillips Andover Academy when he was 14. He had been brought up on a diet of caviar and bellboys' legs in half the capitals of Europe, and it was pure luck that his mother had nervous prostration and had to delegate his education to less tender, less biased hands. At Andover he was given a roommate named Gilly Hood. Gilly was 13, undersized, and rather the school pet. From the September day when Mr. Meredith's valet stowed Samuel's clothing in the best bureau and asked on departing, "If there's anything else, Master Samuel," Gilly cried out that the faculty had played him false. He felt like an irate frog in whose bowl had been put a goldfish. "Good gosh," he complained to his sympathetic contemporaries, "he's a damn stuck-up Willie." He said, "Are the crowds here, gentlemen?" And I said, "No, they're boys." And he said age didn't matter, and I said, "Who said it did?" Let him get fresh on me, the old pie-face. For 3 weeks, Gilly endured in silence young Samuel's comments on the clothes and habits of Gilly's personal friends, endured French phrases in conversation, endured 100 half-feminine meannesses that show what a nervous mother can do to a boy if she keeps close enough to him. Then a storm broke in the aquarium. Samuel was out. A crowd had gathered to hear Gilly be wrathful about his roommate's latest sins. He said, I don't like the windows open at night," he said. "Except only a little bit," complained Gilly. "Don't let him boss you." "Boss me? You bet he won't. I open those windows, I guess, but the darn fool won't take turns shutting 'em in the morning." "Make him, Gilly. Why don't you?" "I'm going to." Gilly nodded his head in fierce agreement. "Don't worry. He needn't think I'm any old butler." "Let him see him make you." At this point the darn fool entered in person and included the crowd in one of his irritating smiles. 2 boys said, "'Lo, Meredith." The others gave him a chilly glance and went on talking to Gilly. But Samuel seemed unsatisfied. "Would you mind not sitting on my bed?" he suggested politely to 2 of Gilly's particulars, who were perched very much at ease. "Huh? My bed. Can't you understand English?" This was adding insult to injury. There were several comments on the bed's sanitary condition and the evidence within it of animal life. "'Smatter with you, old bed? "'Smatter with your old bed?" demanded Gilly truculently. "The bed's all right, but—" Gilly interrupted this sentence by rising and walking up to Samuel. He paused several inches away and eyed him fiercely. "You and your crazy old bed. You and your crazy—" "Go to it, Gilly," murmured someone. "Show the darn fool." Samuel returned the gaze coolly. "Well," he said finally, "it's my bed." He got no further, for Gilly hauled off and hit him succinctly in the nose. "Yea, Gilly, Show the big bully. Just let him touch you. He'll see." The group closed in on them, and for the first time in his life, Samuel realized the insufferable inconvenience of being passionately detested. He gazed around helplessly at the glowering, violently hostile faces. He towered a head taller than his roommate, so if he hit back he'd be called a bully, and have a half-dozen more fights on his hands within 5 minutes. Yet, if he didn't, he was a coward. For a moment he stood there, facing Gilly's blazing eyes, and then, with a sudden choking sound, he forced his way through the ring and rushed from the room. The month following bracketed the 30 most miserable days of his life. Every waking moment he was under the lashing tongues of his contemporaries. His habits and mannerisms became butts for intolerable witticisms, and of course the sensitivities of adolescence was a further thorn. He considered that he was a natural pariah, that the unpopularity at school would follow him through life. When he went home for the Christmas holidays, he was so despondent that his father sent him to a nerve specialist. When he returned to Andover, he arranged to arrive late so that he could be alone in the bus during the drive from station to school. Of course, when he had learned to keep his mouth shut, everyone promptly forgot all about him. The next autumn, with his realization that consideration for others was a discreet attitude, he made good use of the clean start given him by the shortness of boyhood memory. By the beginning of his senior year, Samuel Meredith was one of the best-liked boys in his class, and no one was any stronger for him than his first friend and constant companion, Gilly Hood.